गणेशाय नमः। ॐ नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः। ॐ ध्यानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरुर्पदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरोः कृपा। ॐ कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। कृष्ण भगवान की जय। गीता माता की जय। हरि ओम। We are discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the nectarian words of Lord Himself, rarely found elsewhere, the essence of all the scriptures and practical lifestyle, and in between the two sides of the battlefield which is ready to commence. 8th chapter. Yesterday we saw the 19th sloka of it. Bhutagramah saevayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratyagame vasah partha prabhavanti aharagame. This same multitude of beings being born again and again is dissolved helplessly, O Arjuna, into the unmanifested at the coming of the night and comes forth at the coming of the day. Here we say unmanifested where they get dissolved, and that unmanifested is getting clarified slowly by Lord to Arjuna. Next sloka says, which we saw a little yesterday also, parastasmatu bhavonyo अव्यक्तः व्यक्तात् सनातनः यह स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति. But verily there exists higher than this unmanifested, another unmanifested eternal, which is not destroyed when all beings are destroyed. This is what we were discussing yesterday. We couldn't complete it due to time. And you know what is time. Anyhow, we have some concept of time. We are bound to it. He says there are two kinds of manifestation, unmanifested. Are you one or many? One. One is? One in many, many in one. So, one will have two, two will have one. Two in one, one in two. So there are two unmanifesteds. He says there is some another higher unmanifested, what you know as unmanifested. So he will explain also what is higher unmanifested. Just as when the person dies, say not human being, even the human being dies. If they burn it, what happens to the body? The fleshes get burned, isn't it? What happens to the bones?
You go to the gross elements, Panchabhuta.
No, bones remain just as it is. Little bones are halfly or partially affected by this fire. Bone is there, and they push it into some water or something. They don't leave the bone there. And some people collect the bone and the ashes. And in India we have a parampara, a custom. If your bone or ashes are touching Ganga water, means it is thrown into Ganga, then you are bound to go to the heaven. The story is before us, story of the Sagar children, 60,000 children of King Sagar. They were burnt into ashes by the corpse of the great saint called Kapil. And 3 generations they tried to bring down Ganga from the heaven, from the sky, and Ganga at last came down. And when Ganga reached that place, the bones, the ashes, when touched with Ganga water, all those ancestors who were rotting in hell, they were saved and they were sent to heaven because of touch of Ganga water. That was the purpose of bringing down Ganga from the three other worlds. Tripatha Ganga is known as flowing in three worlds. In this way, they throw the bone into Ganga water. Anyhow, our point is, though the body perishes, but the bone remains as it is. For long, long time it remains because it is so strongly willed. And Dadhiji, the great ascetic, his bones were taken as the Vajra, the unfailing weapon of the king of gods, Indra. Vajra. So bones are so hard. Now if the body is gone, flesh and your skin and your nerve system, all the things are dissolved, but yet the bone remains. Isn't it? Let it be for some time. So similarly, there are two sections, two aspects of your body. One is perishable and the other is little less perishable, means it remains for some time. Similarly, here the unmanifested has got two aspects. One perishes, then and there. That means one unmanifested manifests again and again. But the higher unmanifested is never perishes. It doesn't perish at all. It is ever as it is. That is also unmanifested. So that is higher unmanifested, and the lower unmanifested has to manifest and get again unmanifest. Again and again it changes. The flesh and bone again and again changes. Flesh and blood and other things, but bone remains for a long time. Similarly, though even the body perishes, the inner soul, the subtle body never perishes. It remains for pretty long time, for ages and ages, for kalpas and kalpas, as long as the soul never gets union with the Absolute. That is also perishable. Perishable means when it gets united with the Absolute, then only it loses its entity. When the bone is thrown to Ganga, what happens to that bone? Who knows? Who knows? Yes. And if something is thrown to Ganga, water goes and mixes with gets united with the ocean, and in ocean, in salty water, nothing remains as it is. Everything gets dissolved because of salt. So someday or other it will perish. But it takes a long time. Similarly, this inner soul, the individual soul or individual subtle body, it never dies. though the bodies die, it goes on changing bodies, different kinds of bodies according to the situations and nature of actions and reactions. Yesterday we saw triangular force acting internally, cooperatively, interdependently, and every way. They are attached to each other and connected to each other, and they work cooperatively. They are the avidya, kama and karma. Avidya is ignorance, our illusory power, which bewilders everyone, deludes everyone, and the kamya means desires. Because of this delusive power, we think something pleasurous which can give us some joy, which is not it. So, because of delusory power, we are bewildered to know what is what, and that's how we go on desiring for so many things, and our whole life journey, eternal journey of the life is spent only to fulfill the desires. And then karma, that's why we do the karma. We do something to fulfill the desires, and desires are born of ignorance. So in this way, these three, they go on in a cycle ever and ever. Yes?
So from a relative point of view, when the body gets burns off, so the name and form also should be understand.
Name and form is body, name is the identification of the body, and they dissolve by the dissolution of the body. So, because they are subtler than the body, they remain for some time more than the body in this earthly plane. The form also dissolves. So form when dissolves, the subtle form remains, that is called subtle body. Just as when the pencil line is rubbed out by a rubber, the impression remains, that is called subtle body. Does it not remain?
So, but in the earlier classes and earlier this thing also you have mainly explained the name and the form are imaginary.
Imaginary, surely. The line is imaginary. What is line? There is no line. It is only imaginary.
So that's why it can be prolonged.
Line is a name for something which is visible in the paper. So the circle also is a line, triangle also is a line, square also is a line, one line only, and circle also is one line, and straight line also is a line. Is it not then imaginary? And it demarcates something, some area, some volume which is demarcated by this line. It separates one portion of the paper from the other portion. So is it not, paper is paper, it is all pervading. But this imaginary demarcating line, it divides the paper. This is how it is ignorance only, this is how the unmanifested or the limitless, when is limited by some imaginary line, then it is called a form. And the form will have some identity by a name. Both are imaginary, they are not at all there. We have some idea of the unlimited being limited, and we have some imaginary name for it. And when one decides it and many follow it, then it is taken as the tradition. This is called tree, that is called mountain, this is called river. And river is a name of the water flow.
This is also God.
Yes, and similarly, the same water flow, somewhere it is named as river, somewhere riverlet, somewhere stream, somewhere fountain. According to its movements and form and acting process, or its all these qualities, this is how the names also different from each other. So all these are imaginary only, there is no truth in it. The truth is unlimitedness, infinite, and it is imperishable, which has got no names, no forms. By imagination only we do all this. Anyhow, coming to our two types of unmanifested. One is lower unmanifested, that goes on changing. The body with flesh and blood and all those cells, muscles and all those, but the bone remains for a little longer time. So we call it comparatively, it is imperishable comparatively. And similarly, the bone also perishes, the inner soul, subtle body, remains for still longer period. So we call it imperishable relatively. And when that in the end gets one union with the Absolute, that imagination is no more there. Those aspects of subtle body, they get dissolved in the, that will be dissolved in the Absolute only, not by the five elements. Five elements create the body, gross body, but the subtle body is composed by subtle elements. So that's how the five tanmatras are there, the impressions are there, all the subtle aspect is there in the subtle body. It remains for a longer time. When the pencil line is rubbed out, the impression remains for a long time. When you fold a paper, it is a just folding. That folding line remains for a long time. It is so very difficult to make it plain. That is called impression. How difficult to make the folded notes to make straight, just equal to new notes. without foldings.
This is also called Smriti.
Pardon?
Smriti.
Pardon?
Smriti बोलते हैं.
Priti?
Smriti.
Smriti is a memory. And memory is in the form of impressions. So all these you have to understand clearly. And now we are looking for discussing on the two types of unmanifested. The lower unmanifested gets changed every now and then, means after kalpas it gets manifested and again it gets unmanifested. So manifestation is called day of the Creator. Unmanifestation is called the night of the day. So one who knows the day and nights, he is real knower of the time. That is what we discussed prior to it. You have to refer to your 17th sloka. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduh ratri yuga sahasrantam teho ratro vido janaha. He is knower of the day and night, who knows that Brahma's day is 1,000 eras and night also the same period, and in the daytime अव्यक्ताद व्यक्तः सर्वाः प्रभवन्ति अहरागमे रात्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैव अव्यक्त संज्ञके. It is called sangya, means it is defined as avyakt, unmanifested. So when night falls, then all these beings, they disappear in the darkness of the soul, and when the day commences, then it gets manifested. In this way, the unmanifestation and the manifestation, the same thing, is seen and unseen, and that is called day and night. That's why the time came in our discussion for understanding day and night. Why? To understand the manifestation and unmanifestation, dissolution. And to understand that, what is called day, what is manifested, भूतग्रामः स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्यागमेव सः पार्थ प्रभवन्त्यहरागमे. All these beings, they get manifested from the unmanifested. यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि प्रभवन्ति युगागमे. Same thing, where from all these beings get originated from that absolute, we say, it is unmanifested also, and it gets manifested, or they get originated. Same thing. Or they are seen to each other. Seen means grossly to the gross eyes, so in a subtle way to the mental eyes. Same thing. Bhutagramah sa evayam. All these are only the multitude of beings. And then he says, parastasmadu bhavanyo avyakto vyakta sanatana yah sa sarvesu bhutesu nasyasuna vinansyati. and still higher unmanifested is there. Now we came, after discussing all these. So, he says, there is higher unmanifested, which never perishes, which never changes, and that is called real unmanifested. And this is called assumed unmanifested, a portion of it. The same situation is otherwise termed in the scriptures ekansena sthito jagat. Ekansena sthito jagat. I hold all these universes in my one part. One part. That is this so-called unmanifested, and the real unmanifested is I, which never manifests, and the manifestation is ekans, a part of me. Just as the bones and the flesh and blood is a part of me. Clear now? So the lower unmanifested and the higher unmanifested. All this building has four, what do you call it? Floors. And this is ground floor. Floor, everything is floor. And first floor, second floor, third floor. They are all only floors, and they are within the building. It is building only, but in different stages, phases, aspects, we see it. The ground floor holds the kitchen, whereas the third floor has no kitchen. Similarly, one thing is differently seen and differently discussed. The same one absolute truth, where what we see as the universes, creations, they are just a part of it. We say the clouds have hidden the cover of the sky. What do you mean by it? Ekansena sito jagat. The sky says, I hold these multiple clouds in one part of me. And how the sun thinks, just as I close my eyes with my finger, so the sun thinks the clouds have hidden me. But we say the clouds have totally covered up the sun. Totally. Can the clouds cover up the sun? Even your earth cannot cover up the sun, what to speak of these little patches of clouds. So, our thinking is so limited, so meaningless, and so comparative, so relative. We think something, understand something, which is not that. In this way, Lord Krishna wants to clarify how these beings are created and how these creations are being seen and what is the reality behind it. Oh Arjuna, you think you will kill all these and you will occur sin? and you are going to spoil the harmony of the society. You fool, who are you? Innumerable beings like you, they get created every day and they dissolve at night. And you think you do something? That's how Lord Krishna again afterwards says, Prakritehe kriyamanani gunehi karmani sarvasaha. It is my nature, that is the lower unmanifested, Mula Prakriti, with three qualities that creates everything, does everything. Who are you to say, I am the doer? How can you be the doer? You fool. You lecture like a big, eloquent lecturer. Fool, you know nothing. You deliver lectures. Arjuna is terrified and threatened as it were. So now he says, but verily there exists higher than this unmanifested, another unmanifested eternal, which is not destroyed. Even all beings are destroyed. A lower person of unmanifested gets manifested, and the higher upper unmanifested remains unattached. Have you seen some iron pieces getting roasted? Have you seen? Everybody has seen. What happens to the iron?
Remain there, but that will get little bit with the rusted edge.
The upper person
Yeah.
is get rusted. But what happens to the inner person? It is as it is. So similarly, there are portions, upper layers and lower layers and central layers. Similarly, the body has got 5 seats. The innermost seat is called Anandmaya Kosh. So, the upper portion gets destroyed, just as your building, the outer portion of the building wall gets wet at the time of rains. What happens to the inner walls? They are as dry as before. Everywhere we see this, but we don't think of, discuss on it. We don't contemplate over it. Similarly, the truth, a part of it, insignificant part of this truth is seen by itself as if it is getting manifested. That is called the ego of the Absolute. And that's how the Absolute becomes the cause for the creation. Really, which is not the reality. Absolute has got nothing to do. The sun has got nothing to do with these clouds. It spreads its ray of light on the dirty places, on the stones, and over the water also. And if the water gets boiled up and the vapors get accumulate and called it is cloud, and again it becomes the water. What does it matter to the sun? Is the sun really becomes the cause for the clouds? It is but nature. What has sun to do with it? So the reality, the absolute is never cause for anything. But we see, we blame and claim and assume he is the cause for the creations. If a patch of cloud gets destroyed, we call it a cloud blast. And the whole mountain is washed away. How can you blame this sun for it? Similarly, the absolute is never tainted, never polluted, never gets manifested or never is unmanifested. It is just a term to have some ideas over it, which is beyond all these ideas. Some assumptions. Yes, the higher person or the central person is never affected. Will you find all these vegetations and all these water and all these grasses and everything in the center of the earth? Huh? It is burning fire. So also the center of our body is the absolute effulgence, self-effulgence. It is fire only. That is we call Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha. The fire color is just as the color of the gold. So here, another unmanifested is the ancient or eternal Param-Brahman who is distinct from the unmanifested Abhyakta or primordial nature with three qualities, who is of quite a different nature. It is superior to Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic creative intelligence. The creative intelligence, Kriya Shakti, is known as Hiranyagarbha, because in the beginning it is an effulgence which has the color of the gold or fire. That's how it is called the golden womb. And the unmanifested nature, because it is their cause, it is not destroyed when all the beings from Brahma down to the ants or the blade of grass are destroyed. Brahma also gets destroyed in the end of his life, that is 100 years of 360 days of such thousand ages of day and 1,000 kalpas of the night. same period of night. So how long the Brahma lives, until then it has to die, disappear. A strong thought, as it were, of the Absolute. So the creation or the Absolute is called Satyamedha. Satyamedha. And the Vishnu is known as Medhaj, or Brahma, the creator, or the destroyer, our Lord Shankar. They are Medhaj. They are born out of the ideas of the unmanifested nature of the unmanifested eternal. Understood now? It is just a different phases of same thing. So the lowest most, that is called our so-called creations, and they are so perishable, and they are within that absolute imperishable. Just as the nails which are every week cut down, and your hairs which are very often they are cut and get sized. They are, of course, your body parts, isn't it? Similarly, the absolute imperishable, the highest unmanifested, it has got lower manifested, unmanifested, and then manifested, and then in that also different phases, 5 basic elements, and they get mixed up with each other, panchikaran, and then all these gross forms are made. Your small hairs on the body, they are also part of your body. In this way, we have to think everything together. Only one is there. Within that one, different phases, different aspects, different qualities, and different ideas, all these, which is not different from each other, centrally or meaningfully, or when we contemplate and see it. विचार करने से. It is their cause. It is not destroyed when all the beings from Brahma down to the ants or the blade of grass are destroyed. That unmanifested, undecayable, unperishable is ever imperishable. It remains eternally as it is. And we shall see the next. Avyakto kshara ityuktah tamahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. My abode is above all. सखियाँ वो घर सबसे न्यारा जहाँ परम पुरुष हमारा जहाँ न दिन न रैन जहाँ न पुण्य न पाप पसारा, वो घर सबसे न्यारा. My abode is invisible to everyone. I am the innermost chamber. I abide in the innermost chamber. Nobody sees me. So he says, what is called the unmanifested and that imperishable अव्यक्त अक्षरः इत्युक्तः तम आहु परमाम गतिम. That which is imperishable, which is unmanifested, that higher unmanifested. Yam prapya na nivartante, reaching which never one gets back to this world. Tadhama paramam mama, what is called the unmanifested and the imperishable, that they say is the highest goal. They who reach it do not return to this samsara. That is my highest abode, place or state. Arjuna, I am not the son of a cowherd. Know me, who am I? Now, this is clear. I think. For the time being, it is clear. We'll forget it. Parabrahman is called the unmanifested because it cannot be perceived by the senses. It is called the imperishable also. It is all pervading, all permitting and interpenetrating. One is within one. Just as in one reflection we see different shades of different many reflections within one because of different angles of the light. One light can make many reflections, and one within the one from different angles. Similarly, all these multiple impressions are within one only. They are interpenetrated. One is within the other. Param Brahman is the highest goal. There is nothing higher than it. This is the true non-dual state, free from all sorts of limiting adjuncts, demarcating lines. It is not Chinese art. It is absolutely clear. The attainment of Brahmaloka, the region of the Creator, etc., is inferior to this. Only by realizing this self is one liberated from samsara, one who goes to the highest peak. Then there is no return. And from little lower of it, though you have reached the Everest peak, but 2 feet lower to it, can you say, I have climbed Everest? Have you put your flag there? No. Many have returned from there. Many have died also. Nobody knows where did they go. In this way, up to the Brahma Loka, which is lower unmanifested. Night it becomes unmanifested, and day it becomes manifested. So that is the Brahma Loka, Satya Loka, that is Loka, a plane of beings. Up to there one can go, and again they have to come back. And of course some remain there rarely. When the Brahma will dissolve, they also will dissolve by Brahma being their imaginary ideas. In that way, only when one achieves that highest unperishable, unmanifested, which is my abode, then only there is no return. So tomorrow we shall see the next Purusaha sa parah partha bhaktya labhyas tvananyaya yasyantaha sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. That highest abode is called Purusaha para, Purushottama. In 15th chapter we shall see Purushottama Yoga. How is that highest Purusa? The lower Purusas are the Ishvara Kotis, they are Brahma, the creator, the protector and the destroyer. They are the lower unmanifested and manifested too. Now we have some little clarity, isn't it? Tomorrow we shall see which is called Purusa and which is called Purushottama. Paramatma, Parapurusa. Sometimes we think Parapurusa means when the ladies say Parapurusa. Others husband. It is not that Parapurusa. It is the highest Purusa, which is imperishable. Purushottama. Tomorrow we shall say Hari Om. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnada Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasesate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai. Satchidananda Bhagavan ki jai. Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Gita Mata ki jai. Hari Om.